Cachorroites, this may have been the most powerful Clone Wars episode we've ever had. Oh, wow. Let's just start the credits. Welcome to another episode of El Cachorro versus the Clone Wars. As our story arc our series is drawing to a close, and we were hit with one of the most powerful Clone Wars episodes that I can even think of. I mean, there's just so much about this episode that it hits you hard, like a freight train. The episode is called Shattered, as we flip over to the big screen. Also, by the way, if you like my videos, please feel free to hit that subscribe button and help me out a lot, as we're still trying to work towards our goal of subscribers, so we can personalize that YouTube address at the top. So feel free to do that, like and comment below. Thank you. So as I was saying, it's part 3, Shattered. The first thing I want to draw attention to in this episode, we're actually going to show a clip from the end of this episode, because I just want to give this man a call out. Kevin Kiner, who's responsible for the score. The music in this episode is by far the best thing in the episode. It's powerful. It gives you a feeling of dread, sorrow, and it's ominous music. It's just everything about this, the music, the music just creates a complete the mood for this episode. It's phenomenal, man. It's hard to put in the words just how strong the music is for this whole entire episode. It's just gives you that creepiness, and it hits it home. But as we start, it's the aftermath of the battle. Our heroes have won. Gar Saxon's in custody, Darth Maul's in custody, and our two heroes unite. And normally it's a win. Just expecting your heroes are supposed to be triumphant and glorious for a win. You don't get that feel from these people at all. It's yeah, we won, but now what? And it's somber. It's I mean, yeah, we got him. I did it with you. They're grateful. They're congratulating each other and doing all that, and how are they going to rule, and how do they move forward and stuff like that. So it's a victory. It's like a bittersweet victory, because it's what it's cost them. So it's a very touchy moment between these two. The scene is interrupted by Rex, who says that the council is ready for the meeting, and to which Ahsoka asked about Skywalker, and Rex said that he was at the meeting when he left. He was in attendance. So we cut to the meeting, and Skywalker's already gone. But what we hear from before Ahsoka enters is we have our characters talking, and they're pretty much remaking the scene from Revenge of the Sith. Anakin has gone to tell the Chancellor about General Grievous, and the council here is talking about the Chancellor, that the dark side surrounds him, and they're worried about him giving up his power. Now we have a whole thing we can talk about when it comes to the naiveness of the Jedi, and I think I might just save that towards the end of the video later on here, where I got to point out is just how clueless the Jedi are in this whole matter. I mean, they just. But yeah, like I said, we'll get into that later. So they have that meet. So they recreate that scene, and where that scene ends in the movie is where Ahsoka and Rex enters. And he's like, "Yeah, we captured Maul, and we won. Maul's captured, and I'm going to escort Rex, bringing him to Coruscant." And and there's this little awkward kind of go back and forth where she mentions like, "Hey, it's what any citizen would do." And Yoda's like, "Citizen, not a Jedi." And she's like, "No, not yet." So she asked about Skywalker, who they told her that's where he was off to tell the Chancellor about Grievous. So she's like, "Oh wow, that means the war is finally coming to an end." And this is where we have this interesting little go back and forth here. So this is where Mace kind of jumps, "Yeah, maybe. That depends on the Chancellor." To which Yoda gives him this dirty look. I mean, there's this when he says that, Yoda just gives this look to him like, "What?" And of course, Ahsoka's like, what do you mean? What about the Chancellor?" And Mace kind of snides at it. "That's sorry, citizen. That's council business." I guess, dude, you're a little pissed off because she didn't want to rejoin your Jedi. I mean, this kind of arc is really kind of at times made Jedi's look kind of like dickheads. I mean, the first arc we had Kenobi acting like an ass, and here we have Mace kind of being standoffish. I mean, Ahsoka takes it pretty well, and then the Jedi start fading out of their holograms, and then Yoda's left, and asks, "You got anything else to say? You want me to give you? I can pass a message to Skywalker." And she goes, "No, that's okay. I'll talk to him when I get there." And then Yoda leaves, and Rex is like, "Well, you didn't tell him about what Maul told you about Skywalker." So I mean, kind of showing that Ahsoka could have said, "Hey, Maul says that told me the story. Skywalker's going to be Darth Sidious's apprentice." It's again, that could have put the shot. If that doesn't tell the Jedi that Sidious is Palpatine, then I don't know what else would. But that's how that. So then we cut to the Mandalorians are escorting Maul, who they have in this carbonite-like cell that what we find out is a Mandalorian cell that was used for Jedi during their war. To which, Ahsoka's like, "I thought these were outlawed," and Spo's like, "Yeah, they were. This is our last one." But supposedly, this way that the Mandalorians would hold their Jedis captive, so that kind of cuts them off from being able to use the Force. So we do the handoff. Ahsoka and Bo bid each other farewell, and our heroes fly up to the cruiser, and the Republic cruiser out in space waiting on them. And they leave Maul in his box, and they put the box inside of a cell, so he's now double celled. So there he is. Maul's in, pretty much locked in a couple cells, so he's pretty locked in. To which we go to the bridge, where we have Rex and Ahsoka, and we see him going in the hyperspace towards Coruscant. And we have a little dialogue between these two. And they talking about the war. And Ahsoka's like, "Hey, I'm a Jedi. I was a Jedi. I'm supposed to be a keeper of the peace, but ever since I've been a Padawan, I've been a soldier." And, of course, Rex is like, "Well, if it wasn't for the war, I wouldn't exist. Us clones wouldn't exist. So we're kind of like bitter feelings. We get the people's dread on the war, but it gave us life." And then Ahsoka gives this whole, at least that's the one benefit of it is we had great soldiers, and I got a really good friend. Nice touching moment between the two. But then they do this salute to each other. They're 2 feet apart, and they just do this salute, and they hold it for a while. That felt super awkward. There's a few things in this episode that kind of were a little awkward stuff. And first off, I thought that salute just felt weird. It just kind of not only it was just, hey, we're friends, so we're going to salute each other, but then they kind of held it for too long. And of course, then another clone interrupts and says, "Rex, there's a briefing." And Ahsoka tells Rex, go ahead. It's probably good news about Kenobi. And she stays on the bridge. We got a few scenes here. Then we see Ahsoka. We first cut the Maul in his cell, and you can see that he starts to, he can sense something. Then we cut back to Ahsoka on the bridge, and you can hear her sensing something too. And overlapping this is you hear dialogue from Revenge of the Sith of the scene where Anakin turns on Mace Windu and saves Palpatine's life. And you're actually hearing the actual dialogue from Hayden Christensen and the actors from the movies. So I thought that was kind of where we had our first thing was they remade the scenes with the voice actors. This is actually the real movie dialogue in here. And you can feel her, she's sensing it, and she feels this sense that something bad just happened. And then the moment happens. We cut to Rex, who's being briefed by Darth Sidious, who does the famous execute order 66. And, he gives the whole... Oops. And he does the whole, yes, Darth Lord Sidious. And Sidious fades out. The door opens and we see Ahsoka coming to Rex saying, hey, something happened with Skywalker. I sense something really bad has happened. And you have this really good scene where you just see the behind the shot of Rex holding his helmet in his hand, and it's just kind of shaking, and he drops his helmet. Then you hear like a little radio buzz, and the two troopers guarding the door turn and aim their guns at Ahsoka. To which Rex like, no, I'll do it. And he turns around, he points his double blasters straight at Ahsoka. And they're shaking, so you can see he's kind of trying to fight it. And while he's kind of fighting it, he does drop out, he kind of tells Ahsoka, find Fives, dropping Fives' name. And then he fires off some shots that miss her. You could say that he maybe missed her intentionally. Maybe he was able to fight the urge good enough to purposely miss her. And then we have Ahsoka. Ahsoka fights for her life. The clones are she's getting shot. All the clones are trying to turn on her. The other clones have turned on her, and they're trying to take her out. So she's deflecting everything. And in the aftermath of the deflection, she's able to escape through, create a hole in the ceiling and escape through it. So Rex and the clones did technically turn on her. So talk about that a little later too. So after that happens, Rex puts on his helmet and he orders some commands. First, he orders a group of clones to go execute Darth Maul. Or Maul, you should call him now. And then he talks about finding Ahsoka. And we have a couple little things here. So Rex breaks down, I guess if you're new to the franchise here and don't know much, he does a complete breakdown of what Order 66 is. And it's the directive saying that the Jedi leaders have committed treason and must be taken out. No, the wording here is actually really interesting because the way it's worded is that the Order 66's goal is that you're supposed to be taking out Jedi leadership. I mean, why would they take out Padawans and stuff like that then? Why are they taking out Darth Maul? So there's kind of some stuff about that. So yeah, I get you're trying to do like a little dump for people who don't know what Order 66 is, but don't think you did a great job of it. And then we have another interesting cringe line that I kind of didn't like either. And it's pretty much after he does the Order 66 meeting, Rex talks about that any soldier who fails to comply with Order 66 is also committing treason and should be terminated. Every clone should. Why would that be a factor? Because I mean, I guess that's probably foreshadowing for what events that happen, maybe in the next episode, the start of this episode, and maybe lead in the next episode. But all the clones have chips, so they should all be compelled to commit Order 66. So I just thought that line just didn't seem to fit right there, because there's like, why would he need to tell fellow clones that have the same directive to do that? So that line, I think, probably should have been tweaked a little to anybody who helps the Jedi is guilty of treason, maybe, something like that, saying anybody who helps the Jedi or is committing treason and should be is to be terminated. Something along those lines. I think it may have worked better. So then we cut to two clone troopers opening up Maul's box. They go into Maul's cell and they're opening up the box. Now Maul's in this box, but he's got a thing over his mouth and his limbs are all shackled in, so he can't like move, he can't talk, nothing. So they're opening it up and they're getting ready to take him out. Ahsoka comes in, takes out the two clones, and frees Maul. We get a little interchange back and forth where she first asks Maul if he is to blame for this. To which he goes, I don't know what happened. All I know is I felt something happen. I felt death. I know something big has happened. And Ahsoka drops, the clones turned on me. And that's where Maul kind of puts two and two together, goes, oh wow, that was my master's plan. His plan was to turn the Jedi's army against them. So he goes, well, it's great. We can team up and we can survive this. And Ahsoka's just like, no. I'm not working with you. That's not what I'm here for. I'm setting you free so you can like go cause chaos and be a diversion for me to do my plan. So it's kind of Ahsoka's showing some greedy motivation here. And at one point he even asked for a lightsaber so he can, at least have a fighting chance. And she's like, I don't care if you die. It's like, I pretty much like, I don't want you to win. I just need you to, distract them. To which, so it's reported back to Rex that Maul's escaped. Rex orders all the escapes pods destroyed and asks for them in once the hangar, super guarded. So now we kind of get a feeling of what Ahsoka's plan is. So Ahsoka, it's only fitting in that we have a scene with Ahsoka teaming up with droids, because Ahsoka's always been pretty, throughout the show's run, she's always been, really friendly with droids. So she meets up with a bunch of the astromech droids, and they greet. And I guess even though they were like kind of in standby mode, I guess they kind of know what happened, but they all agree to help her. At first, she starts researching Fives, as Rex said, and she finds out that Fives was terminated, and he was found that his inhibitor chip was malfunctioning. And that was the story they told, and the Senate and the Jedi Council said, "Oh, okay, cool. So, the chip's not this inhibitor chip that all your clones have. This one malfunctioned. Nothing, and that caused them. Well, not Fives wasn't the one. There was a different one that killed a Jedi. So Jedi just upped and bought it because they're Jedi. They're not bright. And they're told that there's one report that was filed against the report. And the first, it's locked. And it just happens to be Ahsoka knows Anakin's passcode, so she can access the file. And it's Rex pretty much saying that he has suspicions that there's a deeper meaning to these chips that we don't know what they do yet. Saying he's suspicious of these chips. So Rex, a clone, is suspicious of the chip that's inside his head and what its purpose is. Meanwhile, the Jedi are like, oh, okay, cool, man. You got chips in your head. That one just malfunctioned. It's okay, no problem. We don't worry about it. Whatever. And to this point, Ahsoka kind of figures it out. Well, it's these chips. Wow. Ahsoka, just learning about these chips for us now, automatically puts two and two together. It's these chips. So from there we cut to Darth Maul being an epic badass, taking out clones left and right, squishing them, pretty much decapitating them. It looks like he may have decapitated some, cutting their arms off without any weapon. I mean, he's just using his force abilities, which this might be the most force abilities we've ever really seen out of Darth Maul, who's typically not a heavy force user. Usually Maul's more of a lightsaber duelist, using his lightsaber to dispatch his foes. But he's pretty much using force powers to pull panels off the wall and crush them and throw panels into the people. And he's just going to town taking out clones. An epic badassness. And it ends with him hearing them, they locking him behind a blast door and him listening to their chatter on a radio from an arm that got cut off that he had got. So just kind of guess hearing what the clones' plans are. To which now we go back to find out Ahsoka's plans. Ahsoka uses the droids to cut Rex off from the other clones so that she's able to say, hey, I know it's your chip. I know what's wrong with you. I understand what you tried to tell me. I can help you. So her plan was to stun Rex and use the droids to get him, and as they're closing blast doors behind them, they'll try and slow down the clones that are coming after her. They get him to the med bay so she can try and do something about his chip. So we have a scene. So she locked herself in the med bay, and there she's got droids scanning to see if they can find the chip. And at first the droids can't do it, and then we get a Rogue One tie-in where she puts her hands on Rex's head and she does the I am one with the Force and the Force is with me. I am one with the Force and the Force is with me. And through using that, the droid is able to detect the chip. And she orders the droid to have the chip removed. She don't know if it'll work or not, but she goes, hey, we have nothing to lose. If this doesn't work, we're dead anyways. So as Rex goes in the machine to have the chip removed, the clones finally start breaking through, getting the door open. And which leads to Ahsoka, once again, fighting for her life against the clones as they're trying to knock the clones out, trying to get the door resealed. As she's fighting the clones, we get glimpses of first Rex waking up. Then we have a scene of Rex reaching for his pistols, his blasters. And then a clone is able to hit Ahsoka's shoulder, causing her to lose one of her lightsabers. And then all of a sudden, Rex pops up, starts shooting the clones that are holding the door, and then one of the astromech droids is able to reseal the door. So Rex comes to the rescue. To where we get, another awkward moment here. So to Mitch, she's like, hey Rex, are you okay? He goes, yeah, sorry kid. I'm sorry for what happened earlier. I almost killed you. Dialogue, do you think that dialogue I think could have been a little better or something like, I'm sorry kid, I couldn't control myself, something like, I'm sorry I couldn't control myself. This order just came through my head and it was forcing me to act the way I did. So I don't know. I mean, this one's not as too terrible. I just think it could have been tweaked a little better, but not a big deal. And to which Ahsoka wants to know is like, how widespread is this? And Rex drops the bombshells. It's everywhere. It's all of us. The entire clone army was given this order to take out and kill the Jedi Knights. So we keep having different meanings of Order 66. Rex ordered Maul killed, but then says Order 66 is a directive to take out Jedi leadership because they're accused of treason. Then here they're taking out the Jedi Knights. It's kind of like they're kind of bouncing all over the place. I mean, I think they should just Order 66. His job is to take out all Force users, not named Palpatine and Lord Vader. In a way, that's it's pretty much they're taking out anybody. So, and then the episode. Then we cut back and we see the clones are cutting through the door, look like they're welding through the door. And we have this ominous, they're trapped, and how are they going to get out moment. And that's when we get the fade to black. So it's, like I said, a super powerful episode. Touch back on some points that I mentioned earlier. So we pretty much figured out that the Jedi on the whole are really stupid. And they're not very bright. I mean, at one point, they know that Darth Sidious is out there, Darth Lord, and they know he's playing both sides of the fence. They know he was behind, and there's kind of a couple of stories on this, but it's supposed that they know he was behind the clone army. This clone army was created mysteriously, and they speculated through him that he's behind playing everything to try and take over the galaxy. At the same time, they're paranoid of Chancellor Palpatine, that he stayed in power well after his term was over, and that the dark side surrounds him. But somehow they can't put these two things together, even when sometimes it's pretty obvious. And like I said, then we have the part with the inhibitor chips. I mean, a clone went rogue and shot his Jedi leader. And it was blamed on a faulty inhibitor chip, which then caused Fives didn't buy it. It caused Fives to do this whole investigation thing, where he was realizing there's something up to the chips, and to the point where it was appeared that Palpatine told him the plan, and secret told him the plan, that hey, I'm a Sith Lord and all this stuff, to get so people thought Fives went crazy. And they just based it off of, hey, the inhibitor. He has an inhibitor chip that's to keep him from going rogue, and his went bad, which caused him to go rogue. And the Jedi bought it. Even Rex himself, the clone leader, we saw filed a report saying that he thought there was something up with these chips, and that they might have a purpose that we don't know yet. So a clone even was worried that there's something bad about these chips, and the Jedi didn't. So that, to me, that just kind of, like I said, this goes on ongoing theory that the Jedi are not very smart. I mean, maybe they're smoking too many midichlorians, but they're just not figuring out. Another thing that we kind of happened in this episode is it slightly retconned a Rebels episode. In Rebels, when Kanan meets up with Rex, we have a part where Rex says, not all Jedis turned on their Jedi. And some of us removed our chips. Well, that's true from a certain point of view, as we like to know from Star Wars. We like that certain point of view. Rex technically did turn. I mean, he's fighting it, I'll give him that, but he did technically turn on Ahsoka. I mean, he did try and kill her, and he did send out orders to kill her. And even though he was fighting it, he would have done it. And Rex technically didn't remove his chip. Ahsoka did, for him. Because Ahsoka realized it was the chip that was causing the issue, and she removed it. So he didn't voluntarily remove his chip, like it was kind of hinted that he did. So we kind of changed that history a little bit. Not to mention, that was some of the fastest surgery in history. I mean, she's like, oh, there's the chip. Okay, remove it. And then the clothes start breaking in. And next thing you know, Rex is already removed and Rex is okay. So, I mean, Star Wars, they do some super duper fast surgery. But hey, it's a cartoon, so got to give some leeway there. But pretty much as I speculated that obviously, and I think trailers kind of came out saying it, and the blurb came out saying that Order 66 was going to happen in this episode. Initially, I thought it would be the last episode, but they kind of sped things up a little bit. A lot of people thought they were going to get to Coruscant and be in the Jedi Temple and all that stuff was going to happen. and I was one like, nah. It's and especially from the trailers, I was like, it's gonna happen on it's happening on the ship. Looks like they're on a ship. They're on light in hyperspace, and that's when Order 66 comes in. It's going to be about Ahsoka and Maul surviving on a ship. I thought they kind of worked together a little bit more than they have than what we've seen so far. So I was right about that. So now we lead into the final episode, which is just a few days away because they're doing it on May the 4th. And the speculations are all over the place where we're going to get. Is Ahsoka, and are we going to see Ahsoka and Maul? Are they going to see Vader? Anakin / Vader? I don't think so. That to me doesn't make sense. I mean, right now, while they're fighting for their lives on the ship, Anakin is killing younglings at the Jedi Temple. And we know from right there, he goes straight to Mustafar to take out the Separatists. And then shortly after, seems like he just sits there and hangs out for a while until Padme and Kenobi show up, and then we have the Kenobi fight, and Kenobi wins the battle. Anakin is dismembered. Palpatine goes and rescues him, and then puts him in the surgery, and he gets to become Darth Vader. So I don't see any way they could see Anakin. That makes no sense. And for the facing off with him as Darth Vader also makes zero sense because, I mean, obviously we did see surgery can happen pretty fast here, but I feel if you're telling me that Palpatine takes off and goes to Mustafar that fast as he does, finds Anakin, puts him in the surgery, and Anakin turns around and he's walking around as Darth Vader like a day later, I'd have to imagine there was some time jumping as he's getting the Vader, they're getting the surgery and stuff to turn him into Vader, that we've had a time lapse in Revenge of the Sith. And of course, Revenge of the Sith ends with them looking at the framework of the Death Star being built, which kind of makes me think we had, so I feel like they've jumped forward in some sections of time. They kind of did a little time jump where he finished his surgery and was Vader, and then they did a little bit of a time jump showing him on a Star Destroyer looking at the Death Star. So I don't think that's all like instantaneous. Not to mention, it kind of goes. This would also retcon another Rebels episode where Ahsoka's speculations were Anakin was Vader. She had no idea of that until they faced each other in Rebels. And at that point, Anakin's also still surprised to find out that Ahsoka's alive. So you can't really have them face off with each other and Ahsoka escape, because then he's going to know she's out there. So I'm feeling the next episode is going to involve them escaping the ship, her and Maul, and they're going to, I guess, go their separate ways in the hiding. Maul's going to go into the criminal underworld and start, running Crimson Dawn, as we've seen from Solo. We know that's where he's at in Solo, like 10 years from this point. Ahsoka is the mystery, because we don't know exactly where she goes until we see her in Rebels. I mean, I guess it's possible she could meet up with a Kenobi or a Yoda. I mean, I guess we can't rule that completely out. God knows, she might reunite with those sisters. Please, God, no. Please tell me they're gone. But I think the episode is really going to be about them dealing with the fallout, sadness, going in the hiding, stuff like that. That's how that's going to end. That's my prediction, at least. So we'll find out here in a little while, in just a couple of days when the next episode comes out, how they wrap up the series. And I mean, this whole arc, is like cinematic. It's movie quality. Last episode I was bragging about how the amazing visuals they had in it. Still had good music too, and other story and all that stuff too. This episode, it's just the music is so dominant in creating the setting, the mood. This ominous, dark, depressing music is phenomenal. I mean, this is easily the best episode of the entire season, and like I said, one of the best Clone Wars episodes I think ever. I mean, there's just so this episode is just so powerful. I'm giving this just, even though there's some cringe lines I didn't like in this one that I think could have been better. This is a straight 10. This is a perfect. I mean, I can forgive some lines that I didn't like or some awkward moments, as long as with the rest of this episode being this powerful. And you just watching, it's heartfelt. It's hits you. You're just watching Ahsoka fight for her life, and her loyal soldiers trying to take her out where they're wearing their Ahsoka helmets, just trying to kill her. This is an amazing episode. This was truly amazing. I was like, wow. It's like, and it's just now it just kind of sets in that it's about to end. We're about to get the finale. So it's some super powerful stuff here. At least these are my views, my thoughts. Feel free to comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it that thumbs up. If you're not already, hit the subscribe button. Give me a follow, help me out there. We got a long way to go before we hit our goal. With this Clone Wars ending, we'll have to find some other stuff to make some videos on. So I'm sure we'll come up with something. Got a couple ideas I'm kicking around. But until then, I thank you for tuning in and watching. And remember, I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me.